Welcome to Started Up Wednesday. If it's your first time watching, this is a stream that we do. I believe it's like 2 weeks on, 1 week off. I don't know if that's considered bi-weekly, but basically we chat with startup founders about their experience building a company, and we look at their demos. It's a great opportunity for us to explore different products that we can be using, but also a great opportunity for us to learn about how we can get started on our startup journey as well. I do want to highlight something as well. This stream is part of the GitHub for Startups program. And if you also have a startup, I would encourage you to look into this. Basically, GitHub for Startups helps your startup go from idea to IPO on the world's largest and most advanced developer platform. Eligible startups receive about 20 seats of GitHub Enterprise for free for 12 months. And you also get like tailored product guidance, you get mentorship, you get the opportunity to be on Twitch streams like this. So whether you're the founder or you have an enterprise administrator, please reach out and try to join the GitHub for Startups program. Without further ado, enough of me talking, I do want to give way to our guest today to introduce himself. So, hi, Mehdi.
Hey, Riz, how are you?
I'm
Very excited
good.
to be here.
Yeah, me too. Do you want to give the audience a bit of like an introduction of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Mehdi Osman. I'm a software engineer by training. I started my career back in the days in 2009. And as a junior programmer, I was basically working on front ends. I was lucky enough to join a startup in the finance industry. So I was working on those trading front ends. And the funny story is at that age, that was like probably 14 years ago, I had the chance to work on the predecessors of what we call today the single page application. So if you are a web developer today and you want to start, front end, a web application, chances are you're going to be picking from one of the most famous frameworks, right? You're going to be picking React, Vue, Angular, you name it. Well, at that time, that wasn't available, and that was just the beginning of that trend. HTML5 wasn't even there. And so I worked on a technology called Silverlight, and that is a single-page application technology. So the promise at that time was like, hey, instead of using a hacky language like JavaScript and having to endure the pain of having to develop, many things across different developers, because don't forget that was the days where we still had Internet Explorer and Chrome wasn't as widely available as today. So, hey, let's use C#, and instead of using HTML, let's use something else. And then you build a web application as if you built a desktop application. So you had all the tool set to develop, to debug, etc. And that tool set was so valuable at that time because all the JavaScript ecosystem at that time was lacking all of this. So I got a chance to work on this. And then since it was a startup, I wore several hats over the years, moved on from, the front end part as a developer to the implementation engineer, project management, pre-sales. In other words, I just, at some point, I learned the skills from how to land a new customer and how to implement and extract value from your tool. So this is in a nutshell what my career was. And then right after that, I just left and started my entrepreneur journey and created OpenReplay.
Oh wow, that's so awesome. First off, at your career journey of like starting off with building Silverlight. So I'm not familiar with it. I became a developer in 2018, but that's really interesting. I love to hear when people are like, oh, I laid the foundation for this popular tool today. I asked people in the chat if they've ever used Silverlight. We have Jay Tranberg here who said he remembers it. Somebody said Andreas said dark times. I mean, I think he said that when you mentioned
Well,
that JavaScript was
maybe,
hard.
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
maybe dark times compared to today, but at that time, you basically had a choice between, Silverlight or JavaFX if you didn't want to really be in the
Yeah.
trenches and cobble things together with jQuery, JavaScript, and all that sort of thing. So it was a revolution at that time. Well, unfortunately, Microsoft, especially with HTML5 and all that stuff, decided to stop working on it. But I can tell you that was, it was a very interesting thing, and I had fun like working on Silverlight in general.
It sounds super fun. I think that's how we're gonna start talking about things like React in like the future. We're like, oh yeah, remember
Sure.
React? Like I made that one time. Whatever,
Yeah.
yeah. And then just to highlight people from like where they're calling in from, I always love to see like the diversity, how people are just tuning in from all over the world. We have someone from Sweden,
Nice.
Nigeria, Seattle. I think I saw Bermuda, Colombia, Tanzania, like so many. I think I said that wrong, sorry. But so many different areas like Cote d'Ivoire and all that. So really excited and thank you all for tuning in from all these different countries. And I would like to kind of tune more into just you said you left that company to start your own startup called
Yes.
OpenReplay. What exactly is OpenReplay? And then what inspired you to um, actually create it?
Sure. So we make a session replay tool for developers. Now, the first thing that comes to anyone's mind is what is session replay? For those who are not really used to be playing with those tools. So session replay is a magical way of capturing and replaying what users do on your website, right? It is literally as if you were sitting next to them while they're browsing your site. Now, session replay are very useful for various obvious reasons because you feel the customer. You're not scanning through a bunch of logs. I mean, for sure, you can capture all the events and have them logged somewhere and then see what was the journey, right? Oh, my user clicked here and then he clicked there, went to this page, got an error. Of course, there are like plenty of tools that will allow you to do that. But feeling the frustration of a customer, seeing what really happened, this is where session replay really shines. And so what's great about it is you can see the frustration. So let's say someone is click raging on a button and the screen doesn't want to move. You could see that right away. Some rendering that got screwed up for whatever reason because the end user is on an old browser or a tricky resolution. All of those things you could see them right away, right off the bat with a session replay tool. Now, that's one thing. But then where we added our touch is we basically developed this bunch of dev tools. You can think of it as the inspector today that you're using in your browser to allow developers and front-end developers not just to notice or identify the issue, but also to go in and say, hey, let me try to find the root cause. Like, what was the error? Okay, I can see someone is click raging, but what was the error? Was it like a bad response coming from the backend? Was it like a JavaScript error? Is it something else? And so we give you this bunch of dev tools that will allow you to go and fix the issue. Now, let's say you don't have such tools internally. The usual workflow would be as following. Someone pings you on your chat, opens a support ticket or something. Let's say one of your customers say, hey, I have a problem here. This doesn't work. I click here, it doesn't work. Now, one of the things is there's going to be a lot of back and forth between the developers and the customer because, well, hell, hey, we need to understand how to reproduce the issue. How the hell did you get there, right? It works fine on my environment. Like, this is the usual thing we hear. Can you please send me a screenshot? Can you tell me when you did that so I can go and see if I can get a bunch of logs from my backend guys and try to make sense of the issue? So there's this back and forth and this frustration on both the user end and the developer end. And with session replay, that's all removed. So basically what you're going to be doing is simply replaying that session, and it would be as if you have reproduced the steps on your local environment. So this is where basically what this is the value of a session replay tool for developers. Does that make sense?
No, yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense and it sounds very valuable. I'm thinking of the times when I was working purely as a software engineer and then like someone reports this is not working. And I'm like, okay, like how or why I'm not able to actually reproduce it. But then, like, if I had session replay or open replay in particular, I can see like, oh, they they were double clicking or they were using Microsoft Edge or whatever, which like
Yes.
created this problem that we didn't think of, like this edge case. And then I can also see in like the expector tools, like the state or whatever. So yes, that makes a lot of sense. You described it perfectly.
Okay, cool.
So what and maybe I missed this part, but what made you like leave the startup and you're like, I need to start this particular company?
Well, the truth is, it didn't start as OpenReplay. I would have loved to tell you, hey, that was a pain I had in my previous company, and I decided to leave everything and go and just build my startup around that. That wasn't the truth. The truth is, I left and created a. So what we were doing at that time is a test automation platform. So the entire idea was, how can we provide a no-code access to front-end developers so they can make their automated tests without any bit of code, or at least with very low code capabilities. And we spent more than a year and a half. We've been through many iterations. And the funny story is, session replay was not the killer feature. It was just a feature on top of what we had, whereby you can see, some examples of customer journeys on your site. And then by clicking on a button, you could turn that replay into a list of steps or code that you can then run on our cloud. Remember, we're doing test automation, right? So that was the entire thing. The entire thing is, this is a helper to help you build those use cases to get started with test automation. And what we discovered, so we could generate a bit of revenues. We had some customers. We've been through many iterations, etc. And then what we discovered is users were spending most of their time looking at replays rather than making the automated tests, right? And that was like the wow moment where we said, okay, maybe there's something we can dig into. And then lo and behold, and after like so many discussions with the customers, what we discovered is like people were asking us, okay, well, the replay is nice. I could see a bug, but then I see where the bug is happening, but I don't understand why. Could you please, add support for console logs? And then could you please capture, let's say, the performance metrics? And it started like that. And this is where at some point we decided to completely pivot to what OpenReplay is today. So this is basically the story behind OpenReplay.
That's really interesting, and I think a good like anecdote for people who are maybe have a startup and they're figuring out like how should I narrow down or should I even narrow down on a specific like sector of my product just to make sure that like I get more users or I'm serving the community better. So that's really good. Somebody said, I don't know, this might be a startup term that I don't really know, or a business term. Someone said that this is why BDD is so valuable. Do you know? Are you familiar with that? Maybe
I'm not
business.
sure what BDD is. I'm
Okay.
not sure what BDD is. Yes.
Feel free to clarify. Um,
Yes.
because I don't have a startup or business background at all. I'm just a developer advocate. So would love to learn more about that. We had a couple of like comments as you were speaking. More people just reflecting on Silverlight. Oh, I think someone said Silverlight was a really big deal.
It
They
was.
said
It
session
was.
replay sounds interesting. Someone said OMG, Microsoft Silverlight. But then someone also asked you, what do you think the advantages are of this product compared to LogRocket?
Well, we are in the same space. LogRocket is one of our competitors, and I would say one of the main competitors in the session replay, space for developers. Um, the difference is, so we're source available. Where we tend to generate most of our revenues today is by providing our software self-hosted. So we primarily sell to the enterprise. Privacy is a big deal. Big companies usually want to have the data and the platform running on their premises. So I would say those are like the main differences, but we're definitely in the same space as LogRocket.
Yeah, and I think whenever people ask these questions, I'm always like, it's it's not like I even if they're a competitor, it's not necessarily a competition because some people might say, oh, you know what, LogRocket works best for me, and some people might say OpenReplay works best for me. They
Sure,
clarify
sure.
that BDD stands for behavior driven development.
Oh, that's
Automate.
interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
got it. Okay. Well, I wasn't aware of that, even though I spent like a couple of years on that. But yeah, thanks for for explaining
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, sounds like you're an expert at it, but you just didn't know the terminology.
Yeah,
So, someone asked for a oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong one, but someone asked for a demo, which is what we
sure.
have planned anyways.
Of
So
course.
I'll just share your screen and we'll switch over to seeing how this works live.
Yes. So let me. Okay. So I think my screen is visible. Okay. All right. So I just captured a session on the React application mimicking a trading screen. Why? Why I picked the trading screen? Because believe it or not, in finance, and I highly encourage like young junior people to join also the finance industry because they get to learn a lot. There's so many challenges about scale, throughput, latency. You get to optimize your software, like your stack from the software down to the hardware, right? And so these screens or these kind of application, they're like high volumes. There are like so many changes to the DOM. They consume a lot of bandwidth, and I chose that as an example. So this is what a session replay is. So I went into this website, reactivetrader.com, right? Um, so this is a session I just did. On my Chrome version 114, on my Mac OS with this resolution. And this is what a replay is going to look like, right? So this is basically what it is. It's a video, even though in reality it's not a video. We get to capture the DOM, the HTML pieces, add them to the styles, add the images on top of them, and then inject all of this into an iframe. And this is how we give the illusion of a replay. But this is what a replay is, okay? So I get to see what the end user is doing. Again, it is as if I was looking over their shoulders, right? And so on the right, I have all of the events, right? So I can see they visited the page. It took me 4 seconds to start it. On the elements, the different elements I clicked on, and I'll get back to why these are important, especially for search later on. So I get to see all of these things and even some frustrations, right? So I was thrashing my mouse at some point, or I was click raging here and there. So all of these are the kind of events, what we call the functional events that we capture about a session replay. Now, let me just move to another replay because obviously we use our own tool as well to capture, frustrations and bugs. So one of the things, so let me just pick a session perhaps from here. Okay. All right. So this is basically OpenReplay. We're capturing a session on OpenReplay. So we're trying to see for our SaaS users what are the different things they're facing. And I was referring to the DevTools a few minutes ago. So the DevTools are basically this bunch of things that we add on top of the session replay so you can make sense of what went wrong. So here we have what we call the console, right? So you could see the logs, you could see the errors. Clicking on an error, especially if you have uploaded the source maps, would show it here. We also capture all of the network requests, everything that's been loaded into the application. So all of the CSS of the JavaScript, we can tell you if it's been in cache, in your browser cache or not. And most importantly, we're going to be also capturing, the different calls, and then you're going to be seeing, the headers, the HTTP payloads, etc. Right? So this is one of the different tools where you could be using, and where it can be super helpful to understand what went wrong. So one use case here is I'm clicking on a button and nothing gets displayed. Well, it's probably a 404 or 403, whatever. It's probably 4xx or 5xx error coming from the API. We also capture different performance metrics, so things such as like the frame rate, the CPU, the memory consumption. So you can see whether, in addition to other metrics such as the visually complete, the time to interactive, you can see whether that session was slow and how the end user really felt it. Like, we capture this on their end directly by asking their browsers. We also plug ourselves into different store management libraries. So you can think about Redux or Vuex or MobX or NGRX and so on and so forth. And this is basically what was in memory. This is the state of my application at any point in time. So if I'm a front-end developer, again, I can combine all of these tools to go and find out about that issue that is bugging me and fix it right away. Does that make sense? At least to Reese.
Yes, I muted myself, but I've been saying yes the whole time while you
Oh,
show.
sure. Okay. All right. Perfect. So I'll just finish with that. So obviously we can capture millions of sessions. And one of the things we worked on is we have a tool set that would allow you to filter through this massive number of, replays that you may be capturing. So one of the things that we do is all of those events, whether they're like functional event, aka clicks, text inputs, page visits, or technical, like network request, Redux actions, custom events, GraphQL, etc. All of these, you can use them to filter through the mass of sessions that we're capturing, right? And you can go and find sessions by almost anything. So you can build your own funnel here, your own journey, and you can ask OpenReplay, hey, well, I'm only interested in the sessions from Riz because Riz just contacted our support right now, and then there seems to be an issue. Or we saw, let's say, a drop in our conversion, so I'm more interested into looking at my funnel and trying to understand what happened. So this is one thing. The second tool that we have is we have a heuristic-based engine, so we're going to be scanning and all of the sessions as and when we capture them, looking for errors, looking for bad requests going to the backend, looking for click rages, looking for crashes, and all of these sessions would fall into a different bucket. So this is also one of the way we help you go through the triaging that immense number of sessions that you may be capturing. And the last but not least, we have a machine learning based engine or algorithm that would be looking at the history of the session you've been looking at the issues, at a bunch of other dimensions, to kind of recommend what's best for you, right? So based on your usage, based on the kind of session you've been looking at before, I don't know, I'm like a front-end engineer, and then most of the sessions that I'm interested in are about JavaScript errors. So then maybe if there is an error in JavaScript that is repeating a lot on some sessions, then maybe I should show you that, right? So, and then we look at your profile as a user, and based on what you watched before and based on what the session are being captured right now, we can show you some recommendations. Does that make sense?
Yes, this is so awesome. I love how
All
you
right.
tied in ML.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is in a nutshell what OpenReplay is. But I invite everyone in the audience to go and check it for themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is so cool. Do you want me to oh, that's so awesome. Just seeing like even the as the mouse moves, just tracking each section, like that's really great. There's a ton of comments of people that really love this. So should I still keep sharing your screen, or
Oh,
are we
yeah, maybe if there are like questions, I could probably answer them, and then we can stop
Oh,
screen
that's
sharing.
true. Yeah. One of the things I even liked was the create issue section as well, because you can just create the bug report straight off of that. And then
Directly,
also,
yes.
yeah, amazing.
Yes.
And then
I'll probably
one
show
person,
that. Yes.
oh yeah, show it.
Sure.
Definitely.
So here you could create an issue directly into GitHub, right? So you don't have to switch between OpenReplay and GitHub. You can just open an issue directly here, or if you're using Atlassian Jira, you can also do it there. I could create a note and I could share it with my with my teammates. I could simply share the link so with the message and push it into Slack or Microsoft Teams. And then last but not least, I can also create a bug report, right? So let's say, I saw a bug here and I want to create a report. Let's say I'm from the QA team and I want to create a report for my, front-end developers. I can simply do it from here, right? So I can pick all of the events that I'm interested in. We have, we show all the details about the agent itself, the resolution, the version of the browser, whatever. Then I can generate a PDF that I can then, attach to my, let's say, Jira ticket, or just send it plain in on Microsoft Teams or Slack. So there are like plenty of tools you could use here to go and report issues and work on that as a team.
Awesome. This is so cool. All right. One person, just to reiterate, they asked, can we connect it with Jira? Yes, you just said that we can connect it with Jira or Atlassian if we wanted to. While you were speaking, I think one person had asked about React and Redux debugging, and then right after you literally like started talking about it, and I was excited about that myself, because I was like, Redux is so hard, at least for me, to figure out like why this error happened. So it's just going to be that state. Yeah. Someone said this is super slick. I think they're exposing Chromium guts you would get to see in the browser with inspect. And let's see. Someone said, I guess WebSockets debugging, they're asking. Like, does this help with debugging?
No, there are ways you can track what's being sent in WebSockets, but we don't yet support that natively.
Okay. Someone said, so you capture the request and response with header payloads, etc. I guess they're just
yes, absolutely. So we capture that, and then obviously, and this is a very important point, there is a bunch of tools that we have around that, so you can sanitize, sensitive data. Again, you can have the software. We have our open source and community edition that you can host yourself. So yeah, it comes with this entire set of tools to make sure, like from a privacy perspective, that you completely nail it. So that goes without saying.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think more people were asking about security as well. Like someone said, what about the security of this? And then someone else said security aspect, password entering, and then you click on show password. If the user does that, how do you remove or off?
Sure. So yeah. So we don't track password fields, whether you click on the show or not on show. These are things that are ignored. It's done on the end user's end, so the data does not even get sent or tracked, to OpenReplay. We also have algorithms to track zip codes, to track credit card, numbers, that sort of stuff. So these are things that are not tracked by default. Plus, then I invite and encourage everyone to check our, the list of tools, as I was explaining about how you can sanitize the data. You can do it at a very global level by saying, hey, I don't want to capture any email address. I don't want to capture any number. I don't want to capture any input field. And those are like very quick knobs you can turn on and off. Or you can go into the details and say, hey, well, I'll do it page by page, or I'll do it component by component. So here I have a small component that has like user details, like address, phone number, whatever. I'll just completely remove that. And then for the rest, it's totally fine and safe to get it, right? And those things, again, are sanitized at the source level. The data does never hit our backend servers. And again, the entire server can be hosted, like the entire service, OpenReplay, can be hosted on your premises. So yeah.
Awesome. We had people also asking, like, does this also serve as a heat map to help you understand the elements of your customers interacting
Yes.
most? Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. So we have a bunch of other tools. I didn't want to go there because otherwise it's going to take us a lot of time, but I'll quickly show it. Now, obviously, all of this granular data can be, you can build cards and you can build dashboards with it. So you can go ahead and aggregate all of this data to see errors by origin, errors by type, CPU load, the crashes, the don't build time. So there are like plenty of things you can use, and one of them is heat maps as well. So we have funnels, heat maps. And so here, if I go and try to create a new dashboard, this is probably where I could show you. So you could use any of the data we captured, any of those filters. or events to create your own time series. You can create a click map. You can create a table of errors. You can create a funnel. You can track errors. You can track performance. You can monitor resources. So there are like plenty of stuff you can do there. You can create alerts. You can receive those alerts by email or on Slack, and you can basically act on them. Yes, so this is also one way of dealing with this aggregate data, because obviously at the replay level we capture so much data that it's a matter of how we show it in a valuable quantitative way so we can act upon them. So the idea is to switch and move between quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data meaning the dashboards, the usual numbers, etc., and then qualitative meaning, hey, I want to feel the user. I want to sit next to my user and see what they saw basically. So this is how we do it.
Awesome. There were a few more questions. Someone said, and I think this is a great question, they missed the beginning of the event, and I don't think we even mentioned it in the beginning. They're wondering, is your tool open source? Is it free? What's the tiers looking like?
Yeah, sure. So we have all of our code is available on GitHub. Now, technically speaking, we are under the Elastic license, but we use a monorepo. So most of our stuff is MIT licensed. Some of it is Elastic, and some of it is only for the enterprise, because we have two tiers. We have the open source, or the community edition, let me call it that way, and then we have the enterprise edition. Now, I cannot call it open source. It's source available because it's not OSI approved, so the Elastic license. But everything is there. You can go check the code. You can contribute. You can customize it. You can tinker with it. So yeah.
This is awesome, and I just linked the repo link for people if they wanted to just
Sure. Thank
get
you.
out. Yeah, of course. And more people are asking, like, is it like Datadog, New Relic? Yeah, it's within, I think you already said this, it's within that same category or realm. And I think there was one more question. I hope I didn't miss it. Oh, the two more questions actually. Like one person said they kind of missed how to integrate it with their front end.
Sure.
But maybe that's something that, yeah, feel free to explain that.
Yes. So it's extremely simple. As if it looks very similar to how you would integrate, let's say, Google Analytics or any other snippet of code that you add to the header of your HTML page. So this is the basic way of doing it, right? And then there is another way where it's just an npm package and it's a library you could use, and then you can integrate it into your React, Vue, Svelte, whatever you call it, application. So it's pretty simple. Those are like few lines of code. I highly encourage everyone to go to our documentation. It's docs.openreplay.com, and you can see how you can self-host it, how you can integrate the front end, how you can use those extra capabilities to capture your Redux or Vuex store. So all of that is pretty well explained there. And then happy, of course, to get your feedback and to act upon it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to link the docs over here as well for folks. Okay. So my next question that I had seen in here, and this is the last question. It's just someone
Sure.
was asking, like, do you think this is also helpful for performance testing?
Well, performance testing on the front end, this is definitely an axis on which we spend a lot of time. So let me tell you perhaps about the things we do capture. So we capture a lot of web vitals. We capture metrics related to the performance itself, like, hey, how was the FPS at that very precise moment in time? What was the estimation of the CPU consumption? What about my heap? What was the memory consumption? How many nodes did I have? How many DOM nodes did I have at a certain point in time? So all of these are being tracked on each and every single session. And then you have the dashboards where you could build, that aggregate view, right? Where you could see data flowing over time, where you can see when it's spiking. If there's a spike, you can click on that spike, and then you can go down into the stack and replay those sessions where you had like bad performance and try to understand what happened. So yes, the short answer is yes, and the longer answer is this is how we do it.
This is awesome. Awesome demo, awesome platform. Really excited for
Thank
folks
you.
to get a chance to check it out. All right, we'll transition in more to the like your startup story, a little bit about like different paths that you've taken and advice that you have for other people now that we kind of understand the technology that you've developed and seen how amazing it is. So my first question to you is just like how or what challenges have you encountered as a startup founder.
Oh,
And
where do I begin, right? Well, look, I would say that the biggest challenge, and this is where we spend a lot of time. So I was mentioning our pivot from a test automation platform to where OpenReplay is today. That was finding product market fit. By far, that was the most challenging thing because we started in this, the entire product about test automation, it started into our imagination. And this is how we see the world. This is how it should be. But then the world just, answers you in a different way. No, this is not really the product that we want. We want more something like this, right? So, and you spend so much time on it, and it takes a lot of time. So this is, I would say, like the product market fit. Now, product market fit, I see it in two pieces. So I see the piece, the first one, which is, as YC calls it, which is build something or make something people want. Now, it seems to be too obvious, but believe me, when you start and when there's ego involved and when you believe that the world should run in a certain way, and when everything is still theoretical and you haven't then released and you haven't put it into your customers' hands, etc., that's super insightful. This is where it should start. Like, make sure that you're solving a pain and you're making something that people want. And for that alone, we spent a lot of time until we found it. Okay. The second part of it is the go to market. Okay, so you have a product. Okay, it's solving a pain. You may not have a big growth, but you have some stickiness because, in my opinion, and then we can talk about it later, but stickiness is extremely important. And this is what we look at primarily, is how much time people are spending on our platform. Because growth, we can probably figure it out later, but stickiness is key here. But now you have it and you have some people using it, but how can you get from 10 to 100 to 1,000 to whatever, right? So this is what we call the go-to-market, right? How are you going to acquire users? How are you going to price it? How do you stand vis-a-vis the competition? You have all of these things to figure out, and it takes so many iterations, and positioning is key here. So I would say those are like the two main challenges. It all comes down to product market fit as usual, but these are like the things that we face, because let's face it, every pivot you go through, whether on the product or on the go-to-market, is tedious, it is long, you may lose people along the way, right? So people worked with you, etc. So those are like the main challenges, at least for me as a founder, that we faced so far. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, that does sound hard. I always, and I can see why it would be a challenge, because I feel like if I built something, I'll be like, I built this because I believe in this. This is a problem I had. This is something I want to solve. And then if the community tells me, actually, that's not how we want to solve this situation, I'll be like, what? I can't believe this. Like, I think there's still a market for what I believe in. So I could
Sure.
see where um that issue would happen. Okay, so then let me ask you like kind of a follow up of like, all right, so you understand your product market fit now, and you have like a go to market strategy, but like how do you prioritize like features and product development, like when now you're listening to the customer, but maybe the customer has like so many different ideas and there's so many different customers, like how do you say this is what we're going to choose to include into our product, and this is what we're maybe going to put off for later, or this just doesn't seem like a good fit for our product overall?
All right. Well, look, I think it depends on the stage of the company, right? When we were pre product market fit, pre PMF, um, we had to first determine what is the killer feature here. And we found out that the killer feature is the session replay. So everything around session replay had to be prioritized. Okay. Anything that the customers would ask you about session replay had to be prioritized. Anything else, it's secondary. Okay. Even those, like, we had plenty of stuff that were still frustrating a lot of people, plenty of stuff in our backlog to be developed, et cetera, et cetera. But we prioritized the session replay stuff. And session replay, there's so many edge cases. Okay. So it depends on the framework you're using. It depends on the libraries you're using. It depends on the browser, et cetera. There's so many edge cases. And the more we grow our customer base or our user base, the more we discover. So it was all about, hey, let's make this work and work efficiently. It's not perfect, but at least it works and it covers most of the edge cases. When we found when we found the product market fit, what came into the picture is we found our first enterprise deal, and then we completely shifted our focus or our energy or our priority into how can we make this thing scale? Because remember, we are selling to enterprise, it is self-hosted, and we have like big customers, capturing in the orders of the terabytes of data every day. So how can you make sure the platform can scale properly? And this is where we've put like a lot of time. It took us like months to build those capabilities. We invested into DevOps, into automation, and all those sort of things. So this is basically what we have. And then today, it's more about how can we support our sales effort, right? So where do we stand vis-a-vis the competition? Are there any things we're missing? Are there any frustrations? UX is super important. So maybe today it looks like slicker, but that wasn't like that about a year ago. So things do change and priorities do change depending on the stage.
That makes a lot of sense, that depending on like how big your company is at the time, or what y'all are experiencing at the time, changes those goals and how you choose your product market fit. Jay wrote, good way to keep your eye on the prize in response to
Yes,
what you
yes, yes. That's well said.
said. Well, another thing I was thinking about is, what do you have any like rewarding parts of leading a startup, or any success stories or milestones that you've reached in your startup journey?
Well, I think there are two things I can think of as rewarding. Well, I would say three. Okay. So the first one is winning a customer. It's always such a reward. And especially if you can really provide the value that you promised them, that they could see through the sales cycle, that they could see through the pilot. Like once you take it into a real world situation when it's running on their production environment. And this is by far the most rewarding thing because it shows that so many other things are working beneath that, right? You get a customer, it means you have a product market fit. It means you're solving an issue, at least one issue. It means your sales is more or less working, et cetera, et cetera. And you're generating revenue so you can continue, have a bigger runway, and then you can continue your journey. The second thing right after that, and probably because we're a bunch of 10 engineers, it's just building, right? It's something you've been building block by block, rock after rock, whatever you want to call it. But building is so rewarding as well, and especially when you see the product moving and improving by the day. So that is also important. Um, I don't know. Last thing is also, it's the entire intellectual, journey for me as a founder is how I grew, how this experience grew me as a founder. Same thing with our team in their career. So these are all also an important points. So I would say those are like the two, three things that I find to be rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. So basically, getting a customer in, to actually use this in the real world, um, just getting to build as an engineer. Yeah, I understand that. Like when I work on like a personal project, I'm like, this is so exciting. And then just the personal growth that you've had overall for you and your employees. I don't know. I actually am curious about this too. But if you're like, no, we can't name
No,
these,
we cannot.
but
Yeah, the enterprise customers. Yeah, I cannot.
okay,
I would have
cool.
loved to. I would have loved to. It's always nice to be proud of someone's customers, but I cannot, unfortunately. You
Yeah.
asked me about the milestones, I guess, right? And I think I didn't answer that question.
Oh,
Um,
true.
I think about two milestones. Well, the first one is what was challenging is our go to market, right? How we place ourselves, how we position ourselves vis-a-vis the competition. Um, and that's been super super interesting as a process, as an experience. This is something as a founder that I didn't know before, so we worked a lot in our positioning, and this is how we think we could, we cracked the problem. So the go to market includes everything, as I was just explaining, how to get customers, how to price it, what is your approach into reaching out to those customers, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second milestone that I'm most proud of is, getting to sign our first, enterprise deal. That was very exciting. And yeah, this is the moment where you say, hey, we probably have something, so let's keep working on it.
That's awesome. And I think the next question that came up here, you kind of touched on it about like the stickiness with customers, but do you mind like repeating or elaborating even more on like how have you retained customers?
Oh, retain. So there is getting and I think the question is about getting, right? Customer
Uh,
acquisition. Am I correct?
I think
The
no, I think they say the issue we face most of the time is getting customers. Getting customers is one thing, but how do we retain them?
What
What is
about
a
retaining them? Sorry. Yeah, yeah. I haven't been through the entire sentence. Um, Well, retaining them, yeah, retaining them is, I think this is where, if there is a gap, and the wider the gap between what you promise them through your, websites, through your claims, through your videos, and the real value, then obviously people, there's going to be a misperception, or there's going to be a complete different experience. And if people don't find enough value, they're going to probably churn. Now, this is what I learned in the startup journey, is that things may be more complicated. It might not be the product. It might be the support. It might be the pricing. It might be a new, competitor coming into the market. It might be so many things. But I would look into why they're not getting that value that they thought they would be getting, when they were signing up. So I would start there, and then everything would follow. I would, at least, this is my 2 cents.
That's good advice. Yeah. That's good. That's good 2 cents. Um, my next question to you is like, what advice do you have to aspiring startup founders? I know even and this is like an additional question at the same time. I know when you were talking with Alex backstage, you talked about taking a risk and moving from Paris to New York. I wonder if that's
Yeah.
included in any of your advice about like when to take risk and when not to. I don't know.
Well, for sure. I mean, look, I'm not in a position. All of what probably I'm going to be saying comes with a big disclaimer. It's different from one company to another, from one founder to another, from one time to another, right? From one period of time to another. But um, what I learned throughout the journey is, the first lesson is to put your ego aside. So as a founder, you tend to find joy in the intellectual journey. It's not about intelligence. It's not about how smart you are. It's about trial and error. It's about getting to, to finding product market fit. And it's completely, we're not in a movie. This is real life. It's completely different from what you've been building in your mind for years, and how the journey will be. The second thing is, it's going to take a hell lot of time. In our case, I think we reach probably making something that people want. It took us perhaps 2 to 3 years. And then, not to even count the go-to-market, where we've been trying different hypotheses until we landed into one. So assume you're not one of those, founders or startups that you read about on TechCrunch and that you see on different podcasts on YouTube that have done their IPOs within, I don't know, 5 or 7 years. Assume it's going to take way, way, way more time. So be prepared for that. For us, as I was saying it, positioning was key. And this is something we really undervalued at the very beginning, is how we're different. We were thinking, hey, we'll make a nice product, a great product, and people will come for it. Well, that's not really the thing, right? If you take a ring, a diamond ring from Tiffany, and then you try to sell it in one of the souks in the Middle East, well, I'm pretty sure people will not be willing to pay more than $50 for it, right? So setting the context, putting a positioning, the right positioning, understanding your competitive, landscape has been key, at least to us. And this is something you should probably focus on. And the last, what I think is, it's fine to fail. I mean, look, this is how it is. Most of us would fail. But hey, like, the way you fail is going to be also important. So give it everything you have. Enjoy the moment if you can. Be grateful, because you're getting to building stuff and adding stuff perhaps to the world. And then, hey, yeah, chin up. That's fine.
Yeah, no, this is great advice. One, on being realistic, that it may take
Yes.
2 or 3 years to just get to where you are actually serving customers, or your target audience properly. And then there was something else you said. I remember the thing you said about like making sure
Positioning.
you're failing. Positioning. Yeah. I think, okay, here's my thoughts. I think sometimes when we have a more software engineering background, we might not think about marketing as much, or we may think like marketing's a little bit sleazy, and we're like, if my tool or product is good, people will find it and like it. But I tell
No.
people, even especially in open source, like nobody will know how amazing your
No.
product is if
No.
you don't have the right messaging and put it out there.
Absolutely. It's too noisy out there, and we have very little attention span. So we're all competing for attention, right? So this is how it is. And so if you don't make yourself different enough from everyone else, you will not stand out, and people wouldn't remember you. And you would be draining a lot of money down the down that path, and it might not yield to some conclusive results. So marketing is extremely important. I know, I'm an engineer myself. We tend to believe that everything is code and that, hey, there is a solution for every problem. That tends to be true, when you're coding, for sure. And engineering problems are like, scientific, 1+1 = 2. But all the other stuff are super important. It's about how people perceive your product, and it does not necessarily mean that the technically awesome product is going to win in the long run. Absolutely not. And without naming or talking about other products, but we use daily products, and sometimes those are not the best ones that win in the long run. Those are the best ones from the entire experience, from a marketing experience, from a sales experience, from a support experience. You get to buy the entire package. So yes, marketing is absolutely important here.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, because this is a GitHub stream, I do see questions in the chat, but I want to
Sure.
make sure we have 10 minutes left. Because this is a GitHub stream, I do want to know more about like what tools in GitHub's like platform have been helpful or beneficial to your startup, like GitHub Actions or Code Spaces or CodeQL. What things or tools have been most helpful to you, and how have you used them?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Git capabilities, that goes without saying. And then right after we have the issues, this is where we gather all the issues, feature requests, improvements, you name it, from the community. This is where we track all of these. Now, we have internal boards, of course, but everything that's coming from outside, this is where we keep track of. So GitHub issues would be the second one. And then we are big fans of Actions. So all of our CI/CD runs on GitHub Actions. I find it to be easy, to be smooth. The experience is great. And so we leverage that to its maximum capability. We're not users of CodeSpace. We're not big users of discussions. We tend to have our discussions more on Slack rather than on GitHub. It's more like, real time when our community are facing issues and we want to help them. But yes, from a security perspective, we use Dependabots, we use CodeQL, so we look into that constantly. It's integrated into our CI/CD. We make sure we ship, software without any known critical or high vulnerabilities. And then, yeah, as far as I'm aware, our team, especially the front-end team, uses Copilot, and it's been, I think, almost a year that we've been using that product. So, and I mean, the funny thing is, at some point, I think we had it. I cannot really remember the date, but I think it was last summer, perhaps a bit before, when it was released in a preview, and then we had to pay, and so I forgot to do it. And then this is where like one or two of our engineers came and say, hey, we need that to be enabled. And this is where you have like something. Yeah, it helps us a lot. Let's have it. So yeah, we've been users of Copilot from day one, especially the front-end team. Yeah, this is what we use. But look, GitHub is right after our website. So we route people. If you go to our blog, and we publish every day. We publish technical pieces about web development, JavaScript, SBA, and so on. And we route you to either our GitHub or our website. So it's as much important as our website. This is where all the discussions and everything around the community, this is where it happens.
Awesome. So excited to hear what you're using, especially Copilot. Even if I didn't work at GitHub, I'm a Copilot enthusiast. So just to flag a couple of links for people, I want to again highlight the GitHub repository, github.com/openreplay/openreplay. Go check that out. Also check out, I think you all had a documentation site, and I lost
Yes,
track of it.
docs.openreplay.com.
Thank you. I think I accidentally deleted it from the banners. Docs.openreplay.com. But in addition to that, you also highlighted that you all write a blog post every, I think you said every week.
It's every day. We have, yeah, we're yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Every day we release like a new blog post. It's usually, those are like technical pieces about something new. This is how, by the way, I think someone asked about, customer acquisition and stuff. This is how we do user acquisition primarily. So yeah, this is a big part of what we do. Yes.
That's awesome. It's a little bit of kind of like developer relations, kind of like my job, where I
Yes, yes,
talk about GitHub sometimes, but I'll also be like, I also know a little bit more about other technologies, and I'm experimenting. It helps build that trust that they have of you as a technical platform. And then
exactly.
also, I'm gonna just do like a little personal plug too. If people are looking for how to use GitHub Copilot a bit better, I did write a blog post about it on dev.to. So definitely check that out. If I see a couple of like Copilot enthusiasts in here, so just wanted to highlight that for folks. Okay, that's really awesome. My very last question to you before I move into some of the fun questions is, I think I
Sure.
initially asked about like how the GitHub for Startups program helped you, but we don't have to stick on that. I'm actually curious on like what accelerator programs you used, or your funding strategy that helped you to get to where you are today.
Oh, sure. One of the biggest also milestones when we were looking for product market fit was us joining Y Combinator. So I highly encourage everyone to apply, no matter what stage your company is in. This has been extremely helpful. So that's like the accelerator, and we learned so much from there, and a lot of their advice was valuable, and being with other founders in the same position, etc., helped a lot. So Y Combinator, if you get a chance to apply, and they have, I mean, a ton of their resources are already available. I think something called Startup School, and plenty of other stuff, right? You can check the Paul Graham's blog, and you can read a ton of things about startups. So that's been great. Funding strategy, funding wise, look, we're still at the seed stage. We raised a bit more than 6 million over the last few years. Um, we consider ourselves, and obviously we're still, even though we make revenues, etc., we're still in the early stages. But look, there is no strategy depends on many things. It depends on, can you be, this is the kind of questions where some people would tell you, hey, well, you need to raise as much as you can, as fast as you can. Some other people will tell you, hey, you have to be lean, don't really raise, your equity is super important. I don't know. We raised whenever we needed money. We've been super lean on capital until we found product market fit. We were probably 3 or 4 people, and even today, after product market fit, we're like just 10. But it depends on how you feel it. Do you really need those resources? Do you think it's going to boost you? It's going to depend. So the answer, I'm sorry to respond as a lawyer, it depends.
No, I think that's perfectly fine as well to say. Thank you so much.
You're
All right,
welcome.
so with our last 3 minutes left, I want to move into some of the like the less technical, or less startup founder questions, just some fun questions I add, and then we'll wrap up from there. Maybe even talking about things that you want people to check out
Sure.
around like maybe you or OpenReplay itself. But first question is, what's your most used emoji?
Oh, it's the thumb up or the thumb down. That's what I usually use. Yeah, super simple. You click, it's always available right there, whatever the application you're using, and that's it. Yes, I'm not big
That's
on, I'm not a big fan of emojis in general, but yeah.
Gotcha. That's so interesting. Okay, what is your most or your favorite app on your phone?
I would pick an app on my tablet. On my phone, I don't really have one in particular, but on my tablet, and this is one of the main reasons I bought a tablet, is Good Notes. So this is great. It's not like paper, but this is the best experience you can get, especially if you have a nice tablet, without naming any brand. But you could go, and on Good Notes, you can have them there. Good Notes has been great.
Awesome. I think in response to your thumbs up emoji, Rashid put a couple of thumbs up,
Yes.
and then he also said, "Let me come and write technical content for Open Replay."
Sure, sure. Yeah, sure. You can reach out to us, and you can send us some of the pieces you wrote before, and I invite you to send that to Federico at openreplay.com. But yeah.
Well, let me see if I can grab that. In the meantime of me typing that, what was like your least enjoyable job ever? You don't have to say like the particular like name of the company or anything, but for example, I have never been good at retail, didn't enjoy it at all. So just just curious about your background.
Yeah, look, honestly, I don't know if it was luck, but I've never been like the experiences I had so far, especially in the first startup I joined in the finance world, has been great. I learned so much. At some point, of course, after too many years, you get to see everything, and then you move on to another thing. But I'm grateful that I haven't been into a situation where I said, "Hey, I lost 6 months or a year of my life and doing something that I didn't enjoy." I wasn't particularly like looking for enjoyment. I was just escaping what I hate the most as a person is this routine, right? It's like being in the same and doing the same stuff over and over again. And I think over the last at least decade, as far as I can remember, I haven't been in that trend. So yeah, I'm grateful for that, and I consider myself to be lucky.
Awesome. That's actually really great that you've never had like a poor experience. And then last question, what's your favorite rap song or favorite song in general?
It's Lose Yourself. It's too old, I think from 2002 or 1 or 3. I can't even recall it. But it's Lose Yourself, Eminem, by far. And then the second one would be Eminem, Rabbit Run. So those are like my two uh, favorite songs.
Nice choices. That's a good one. All right. Or those are good ones. All right. So I'm going to just quickly again highlight those links for people. And if you have any other things that you think people should check out, please say it now. Like maybe you have a talk coming up or an event that you want people to tune into. This might be an awesome time.
Yeah, well, look, read our blog, go to our GitHub repo, give us feedback, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is where we have our community calls. And yeah, by all means, you can reach out to us on our Slack. It's slack.openreplay.com. And then we're happy to hear what you think about our product and how we can improve it.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to put these links again. We have your repository. We have your blog. I know I'm going a little bit fast, but this is recorded so people can go back and check it out again. We have the documentation, docs.openreplay.com. If you wanted to, I guess, maybe write for Open Replay's
Yes,
blog,
yes,
go ahead and
absolutely.
send your past examples. We have the actual website, openreplay.com, which will then lead you to different things like the Slack and other things
And the
that you
GitHub as
mentioned.
well. Yeah.
And the GitHub, yeah, exactly. And then last but not least, if you are also interested in joining the GitHub for Startups program, I'd encourage you to go to github.com/enterprise/startups. Lots of great benefits to help accelerate your startup as a technical platform. All right. So a lot of people said thanks. Thanks for this conversation, interesting discussion. I wanted to thank you so much for providing your time. I'm sure you're busy as a startup founder. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and providing your time. And also thanks
You're welcome.
to the audience. Thanks, yeah, and thanks to the audience. I love that you all are always engaging, always have questions, and you're tuned in. I like when I do a Twitch stream and it's not completely just me and the guest
And
speaking. So appreciate
sure.
that. Yeah. All right, y'all. Have a great Wednesday. Feel free to tune in. I believe we're skipping next week, but the week after, Wednesday at 2, we will have another started up Wednesday stream. So tune in next time and thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Riz. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Awesome.